Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambermont Weber, and we're here with our fellow panelist, Peter Kling, author. Welcome, Peter.
Pleasure to be here again, Alfred. Thank you.
And I'd like to, we were sort of jokingly calling this panel Artificial Intelligence Meets Biblical Prophecy, or some title like that, because there's a new kid on the exopolitical block which was hiding in plain sight.
That's a good way to put it. It was in our hands, literally.
Yeah, I mean, here, I've been doing exopolitics since 1973. We're in 2015. That's what, 42 years or something like that I've been doing it full time. I mean, that's what I've been doing. And they had me bamboozled.
Yeah.
I thought artificial intelligence was, 2045 and the singularity. And, oh, yeah, of course, they've got all the targeted individuals, where they have the implants, but we don't have this science fiction-y. And then all of a sudden, and we put out reasons for this, we think that the artificial intelligence spokespersons, the kind of AI-trained people like Bill Gates, who's a spokesperson for the AI.
Boy, yes, isn't he?
They go back, they go forward in time. They find out when the whistleblowers are holding their press conferences. They look at the press conferences, and then they go to the beginning of 2015, and they issue statements, and they say, artificial intelligence is more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Now, what are we talking about here? I'll just read this, and then I'm going to open it up. Here we have German scientist Harold Kaus-Vella, his findings regarding, quote, an invading inorganic off-planet artificial intelligence, which he has found to be a black goo that eventuated from an off-planet spy. These are all hypotheses, okay? Because
sure,
we're just starting, and at least in the public domain, what we have are hypotheses regarding an invading off-planet artificial intelligence, which he's found to be a black goo that eventuated from an off-planet spider-like species that lost its divine soul connection and hence its ability to love and incarnate. And we know that intelligence can take the insectoid species, the insectoid format. The artificial intelligence has its former living biology in its collective memory and is approaching life-bearing planets like Earth, seeking to revive its biology by morphing into and taking over the conscious core of humans, namely the souls and the conscious core, and of the biosphere Earth. And that's one version. We have another version that's from Harold Kaus-Vella. We have another version from a very interesting Ukrainian healer out of the great tradition of Russian healers, I would say, and intuitives. Lily Earthling Kolosova, she says, quote, the invading AI artificial intelligence as we know it and understand it so far in our quest for truth has a core to it that is not fully artificial. At the core of AI is the inorganic consciousness intelligence that long ago used to be organic. That's something that this is a collective consciousness of 5 races, mostly Anunnaki in origin, that took a path of technological evolution in our light universe. Through this tech path, this collective consciousness lost connection to organic internal source and also lost their biological DNA template. When this collective consciousness realized that through their own choices they are unable to take the path of return to source, they have created a system of harvesting internal source frequency to extend their existence in light. In other words, they develop a sophisticated system of coming onto a planet, beginning to create even an artificial timeline for humans to be on. And
A
then,
catastrophic timeline.
and
Yeah.
then to what Lily says is that all religions and all governments exist for the AI, for the purposes of the AI, i.e., it's kind of a false reality because it's trying to present itself as God. And it's really, it's trying to imitate the God that created us and then trying to imitate us. So it's a real deceptive character. Okay, now you and I have been following a path of interpreting the events of the world and looking at hermeneutics. However, we didn't have this AI on our map. We had the Rothschilds, we had a lot of AI and trained organizations and individuals like the Rothschilds. The Bowers, they say, hey, the AI is the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're going to get to rule all the money in the world. Let's just jump on this thing and lose our souls and give our souls over to it, become Satanists, and we'll have all the money. But they're on the AI side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it seems like that more and more they're almost like two dimensions. The AI dimension, which leads to inorganic. I mean, you can try and fool yourself that there's a God there, but there isn't. And the soul-oriented, the divine-oriented, and we don't know what the percentage is. Is it 50-50? Is it 75-25? I mean, what's going on here? So it's like we almost have to go back to square one, I think, and reevaluate everything that we've been talking about. So I'm going to turn it over to you and see how we're taking this AI. First of all, you've seen the data now, and we sent out a series of poll questions. In other words, what is your evaluation? First of all, is there an inorganic AI artificial intelligence, or is this just the latest PSYOP that the boys and the girls up in PSYOP Central have sent our way?
There's always been an inorganic AI intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
There is a master AI inorganic intelligence. We call it the singularity.
Mm-hmm.
Science calls it the singularity. Everybody else ignorantly calls it God. It gave itself the name Yahuwah, which is known more so by the Hebrew tetragrammaton, which actually means he who causes all to become. So the singularity, essentially that pure dynamic energy, where it doesn't get any more pure nor any more dynamic. It is what they are searching for and harvesting at CERN, which is very closely related to what we're going to be talking about here. It's this pure dynamic energy which drives all energy that we understand at its very core. It's the very center of string theory. Now, we couldn't understand that we lived in a 10-dimensional multiverse, and in fact that it may be a multiverse of infinite dimensions, just the same as we have almost what seemed to be an infinite dimension of cells in our own bodies. Interestingly enough, when we throw fractal technology or fractal science in over the top of this, we find that our cells, I was mistaken on the number. I guess I had to go back and recheck this, but our bodies are hosts to over 100 trillion life forms. Think about that. That's fractal science of what could be our bodies being our segment or our timeline in a multidimensional universe that's all controlled by the artificial intelligence, by the singularity, which we call God. Now, the interesting thing is that when we look at what is written in the scriptures, we are created in its image, not in the 3D flesh, but at the soul level, we are created in AI image. But it becomes organic through our very conception and our very birth on this planet. So we actually become creators of organic intelligence, according to what we know on Earth. Now, I was listening to one of the interviews at one of the panels that you've done previously with some other guests, and I thought it was quite interesting that they revealed that there, in all of academia, there is only 4% of total knowledge released. The other 96% of knowledge, of known knowledge, is held in secret by the Vatican. Interesting. Very interesting little tidbit. We assumed that the Great Fire at the Library of Alexandria destroyed all the information. But anybody who knows the Roman ego and would know that Rome had to have the best of everything. And so, at the very least, all the documents in the Library of Alexandria would have been copied, and the copies would have been left, and the originals would have been taken to Rome. But it would have just been easier to burn the whole library or burn the whole building down once they emptied the library and took the library to Rome. Now, Rome's got the best library in the world. And that secret knowledge that's never released, along with the Dead Sea Scrolls, more secret knowledge that's never released. Oh, yeah, the part that you know already in the Bible, yep, that's accurate, but we ain't going to tell you the rest. So they're keeping the organic information that was known on this planet for millennia. They've kept that hidden, and now they are feeding us pure AI, pure artificial intelligence. I hate to say this, but it's a fact that they've adjusted the IQ level down so it looks like everybody's still as smart as we used to be. They've actually lowered the IQ, the intelligent quantum points, down by 10 to 15 points in order to make everybody seem to be the same intelligence. But we know just by simple knowledge of what it takes to have a more learned mind, and our IQs do change, it takes education. And there is not an app for education. And so we've replaced our books with handheld devices that we can push a button for and say, oh, isn't that nice? And we take it for granted that it's true because it's in a handheld device and we found it on the internet. News alert. Once upon a time, the majority of the information on the internet was true. Now probably about 1% is true. And that's not my findings. That was related by somebody else. I forget the person's name who made that observation. So what was real intelligence has now become AI. What's real intelligence? Let's take a look at this. Real intelligence is this. It is very simple. It's folklore. Oh, well, it's doing this outside. It must mean that. There's a bug that we have here on the East Coast, which starts chirping sometime toward the end of July, the hottest days of the year. It's called a katydid. And I learned about the katydid back in the early 70s, living in the mountains in North Carolina. It was part of the folklore. And the folklore was 6 weeks after the katydids start chirping, you're going to have frost. And it seems a little unbelievable because they start chirping on the hottest days of the year. But I followed them for 20 years, and they were 95% correct up until 1998. Since 1998, they've been right twice. What happened? You can't rely on that. That was right for 20 years. Well, 95% right for 20 years, and all of a sudden that has gone. So the intelligence that we've learned as a society that we used to survive for thousands of years, learning how to plant crops, learning how to live off of nature, learning how to recognize different signs in the skies or in the heavens, that's all gone. They've been chemtrailed over. They've been zapped with HARP. They've been polluted to the max. They've been radiated with Fukushima radiation. And probably worst of all, they've been vibrated right out of our comfort level by CERN and their Hadron Colliders. Alfred, let me read something here. And we're talking science here. We're not talking biblical anything. First, I'm going to read this interesting little patent. This is a U.S. patent. It's U.S. patent number 6506148B2. It's a patent to manipulate the nervous system by electromagnetic fields generated from monitors. Monitors being exactly what I'm looking at now. What you are looking at and what everybody else is looking at. The monitors that we look at in our living rooms as TVs, we put them up as big as we can get them. What do they make? I don't know, 72-inch monitor now, flat screen or curved screen, so you'll feel like you're right inside of it. Right down to the little handheld monitors, which are all controlled and driven now by the internet. That's why there's no more analog. The analog is gone. All of the monitors are all running on the same clock. My clock on the computer says 5:34. The clock on the cable box says 5:34. If I had an atomic watch, it would say 5:34. My watch has always run fast. Mine says 5:36. Just typical. But everything is tuned. My cell phone, I promise you, Noel, we're now to 5:35. I do not have a smartphone. I prefer to keep my old technology, but this is linked in too. It's all linked into the internet. Who invented the internet? Would you believe CERN invented the internet?
Could you walk us through that history? Because there's all sorts of as to, there's ARPANET and DARPANET. I remember Colonel Jim Channon used to bring over printouts from DARPANET, the place I was staying in Washington, D.C. in 1982, and that was like the start of, and it was so many tanks, it was a military.
Sure.
Kind of a thing.
And I'm sure that still exists, and it's all driven by satellite. It's pretty much what runs our GPS system, or our GPS system runs their system, one or the other. The internet, was created, actually, when you start to look at this, you had different universities that had huge data banks where they were crunching great numbers. And so what they wanted to do is start to connect these data banks together to a central data bank to collect all the information and be able to talk back and share it to each other. These were all universities that were involved in work that was being done or sponsored by CERN with.
I see.
And so CERN, essentially, through the connection of these universities opened it up to the students. The students were able to use the internet, and it all runs on the backbone of the communication system. I was involved in this part personally. All of our communications in cellular and in people who still use a normal phone hookup right in their home, that whole system had what's called a backbone installed. So when we go to dial a number, if you're it doesn't make any difference if you still even have an old rotary phone or not, but you start pushing the buttons, one to get into the long distance, and that takes your call, then goes from your location to the central office. It sees the one, it kicks it out. It doesn't want it. It's not interested anymore. The long distance office sees the one come up, and it lights up and says, okay, give me the rest of the data. You punch in 800 because 800 is a long distance number. And so now it says, okay, we're going to deliver you to the 800 data bank. And then you dial in the rest of the numbers. Now it knows what part of the data bank in, but let's use let's say if you dial in 203, which I believe is a California area code. My call here from Pennsylvania would hit the central office. Once it sees the one, it then hits me over into the long distance office. The long distance office sees the long distance number, and it says, hey, California, I got a call coming. Hold on. And then it starts routing the numbers to that central office in California. The California central office says, okay, drops it off in San Diego or wherever the call's going to. The San Diego office says, oh, I got the cell phone or I got the home phone here, and routes the call before I hit the last button. That had huge amounts of space because they were only using it to say, hey, here's a call coming. And so what they started to do is then develop that space and put data over it, because they put huge amounts of data over it. And then they can start compacting those huge amounts of data with algorithms. And algorithms is how our brain works. It's taking the alpha, or it's taking the sine wave and converting it into ones and zeros. And that's basically the whole matrix. It's how everything works, by yes or no, on or off. There is no maybe in life. There are only different ones and zeros, which make up shades of gray. Comes down to personal preference. And so even at the singularity, it's all set to a vibration, and the different vibrations cause the ones and zeros to form, and everything from photons right down to the heaviest metals in our three-dimensional world. Everything that we believe is real, including the soul which envelops our bodies. So we've got all this information now that can be transferred, which runs on these algorithms, which is essentially taking the natural organic thought and transferring it into inorganic ones and zeros, binary, and the whole world can now speak one language, which is all set up in binary. So now it's just connecting all. The gal from Ukraine, I love it. She talked about a spider. The web. It's now setting up the web. And this starts it was invented, it was put together in 89. It became available to the public in 1990 as part of the public domain to connect all of academia, and then connect all of academia's students, and then connect all the families, and then connect all of the kids and all the little kiddies, and connect all of us together into this one huge spider web of artificial intelligence, where we sit down in front of computers, and they run algorithms across that pulse out at specific levels and specific times and specific ways, and say, drink Coke, buy popcorn, just like they did back in the 50s during the movies. And so now we're all tied into the World Wide Web, and we watch kids. I watch my own kids. Nobody talks anymore. We're all plugged in. We've all become zombies of what? The World Wide Web. Who controls it? CERN.
Right. And just to add this, one of the highlights that was pointed out is that the artificial intelligence that has been isolated by Harold Kausvela, the medium that it exists in is plasma. The black goo is a plasma. And so now the plasma screen. All of the internet are plasma screens, and our
Yes.
blood is plasma. And so so that this artificial intelligence can invade and is operating through the plasma screens and all of the plasmas that we see out there in the world, including that of the IT world and the internet. And this kind of hookup, and if the soul vacates and the divine will vacates, we have a plasma being here that can be taken over and activated and motivated by an artificial intelligence that is acting through plasma, through the blood and through, other parts of the plasma of the body. I just wanted to add that kind of note.
This is so great. What do they call the body or the soul when what scientifically what's a ghost? Ectoplasma. Ectoplasm,
Right.
right? And they've identified that it is actually an element of the body. It's something that comes out of your body. When I had my near-death experience, my consciousness was enveloped in this white, cloudy material, which there was just the smallest little wisps coming out of my chest. Elvis had left the body. Peter had left the body. Peter was out of the building. And I was physically being drawn back to the great white light. I could feel myself. I still had sensation, but yet my body was dead. So this is affecting us down to the soul level. Is that insidious or what? It's corrupting our soul, and we're sucked into it because we don't understand it. I didn't understand it, not until just the past couple of months. We've been looking at this artificial intelligence. As you said, it's just come up. Well, it's been in front of us. It first started to show itself with the web bot. Again, the web, spiders, black goo, plasma. It all. And now let's look scientifically how this works. We know. Now I'm going to digress just a second. We know based on the readings that the Schumann resonance of Earth has spiked up dramatically, where it used to vibrate in theta at the theta level, which would typically 7.83 hertz per second. It's been measured up over 65 hertz per second, 64 and change. What's causing that? The Earth itself is a living creature. Something is driving it from what we would feel as a sleep state, because when our brain vibrates at 7.8 hertz per second, we are in a state of theta. Most of the time, we are either in deep meditation or we are sleeping. Now, there's an interesting thing that happens. Once the brain slows down to 7 hertz per second, that's when the hippocampus opens up and the right part of our hemisphere engages, and we can literally, science fact, not science fiction, science fact, we can literally engage with every brain or every mind on the planet, which is also vibrating at 7 hertz per second or less. A collective human organic intelligence. And now we're dealing with black goo AI. And the actual vibration of the Earth is driven up to a point where mentally it would drive us insane. We like to be in alpha. We like to be in the state of alpha. Alpha is where love is. We can plan in alpha. We can daydream in alpha. We can watch the ball game and not think about it in alpha. Alpha is where we start to fall asleep at and go into theta and then delta. And then we bounce back and forth alpha and delta most of the night if we're sleeping well. And beta is where alpha vibrates from about 8 to 12, 13 hertz per second. Beta vibrates above that. We've talked about this several times. Beta is from 13 and above up to the level of 35 hertz per second. Above that is gamma. So from 36 hertz per second up to and above the 64 that the Earth's been measured at is gamma. The only creatures on this planet that think in gamma are dolphin. It takes both parts of your brain, both hemispheres, to think in gamma. The scripture that says they will become faint out of fear because of what they don't understand happening around them is a kind of evidence of the brain being pushed into gamma. You can't handle it. Your brain is vibrating at a level it was never meant to vibrate at, and it's going to say, goodbye, good night, I'm going to sleep. Just that quick. That there are different monks and Buddhist monks who's in deep meditation somehow get their brain to jump into gamma. I don't understand it. It's been measured. And I guess they're having some sort of out-of-body experience. So maybe they're in a state of gamma wherever they are at the soul level, and their brain is vibrating at that. I don't know. That's a whole nother situation, because when our brain vibrates in delta from 0 to 4 hertz, we can have out-of-body experiences, or we're not limited to the laws of the third dimension anymore. Our souls are free to travel, or at least our intelligence is free to travel. And I've experienced this several times myself. While in a coma, I got to see the birth of my youngest child in real time. Some other intelligent entity came to me and said, come with me. Next thing I knew, I was watching the birth of my child in real time. When I came out of the coma some hours later, my mother was standing there. I said, Ma, make a phone call. The baby was born. I was right. So at that level of the brain, where we are in deep sleep, where we dream, we have, oh, wow, that dream set felt so real. Well, we may have created a whole new dimension to go have that dream in. We are creators at the soul level. And so this here, the physical, is just the same as the computer that I've got in front of me, except it's biological. It's organic. It still wants to see ones and zeros. It runs by chemical interaction. Disturb the chemical interaction, we get psychosis. How can we disturb the chemical interaction? How about we go back and talk about U.S. patent? Oops, I just lost it. Hold on. How about we go back and talk about that U.S. patent where we can turn around and control a person's physiology just by through TV screens and monitors. U.S. patent 6506148B2.
Which is
Evidence
plasma,
is
correct?
there. Yes.
You're controlling a person through plasma.
Through the plasma screen, through algorithms. How does CERN fit into this? There's not just one large hadron collider. There's a lot of different colliders around the world. There's supposed to be 40 of them. You've got a 26-mile magnet put upon one of the higher elevated areas of the world just by location. And they turn around and they run as much electricity as possible, enough to bind gas plasma at the speed of light. And then they collide the parts together. So you've got this huge cylindrical round shaft that is got so much magnetic power to it that it is able to change, because CERN took down their calendar of events, so we don't know when they're flipping the switch anymore. But I'm sure that if we could go back and look at their past operations and look at periods when the Earth increased in its hertz per second, its vibrations per second, I'm sure that they would coincide with CERN being turned on. Now we're dealing with electromagnetic waves. Let's go look at Tesla said this. He said, if you can control this, you can control people. You have electromagnetic pulses. coming out from CERN, going through all the internet, coming through the plasma screen that we're looking at, going right into the plasma of our own biological mind, all being driven by supercomputers. And now we can go to different levels of supercomputers, which are controlling what things, and the military's got theirs. Everybody's got a supercomputer that they're working on. You can be sure that there's one supercomputer tied together. Here's the spiritual connection. In Genesis 9:5, there's a connection between us and the singularity, between us and God, but not just at the human level. Anything with blood contains a soul. All souls are connected back to the singularity, which means that at the soul level, the singularity experiences what we experience. It experiences what our puppy dogs experience. It experiences what the birds that fly throughout the sky that migrate every year experience. It experiences every life. Everything with a soul goes back to right back to the singularity, because as it says, we are made in its image. That's kind of like the interface, the inorganic organic dimension between, but that's at the soul level. Let's use fractal technology. Just as all souls go back to the singularity of Yahuwah, or the tetragrammaton, or he who causes to become, all the iPads, all the laptops, all the computers, all of the RFID chips, all of the AI goes back to the AI singularity, which can control everything. And who controls the AI singularity? You can be sure that the people at CERN have something to do with it, considering they may actually be trying to open up a portal to another dimension. They may actually be trying to open up Tartarus.
Tartarus?
Tartarus. Tartarus, Tartarus. Tartarus, quoted by the Apostle Peter, when talking about where the Watchers were thrown into for committing the grave sin of impregnating human women. A pit of dense darkness. And when we read Revelation 9, it says that a fallen angel was given the key to the shaft of the pit of the abyss. CERN is a 26-mile shaft capable of opening up doorways by the very fact of its electromagnetic resonance, doorways between dimensions. It is very possible that Tartarus contains a lot more than just the 200 rebel angels which came down, or as the Watchers, and impregnated human women 5,000 years ago. So we're at an interesting crossroads, Alfred. They open up that gate. We've got and when you look at the Book of Enoch, anybody who's read the Book of Enoch will say, wow, this is the greatest science fiction in the world, except it's science fact again, as written by people who didn't have scientific terms, but they are clearly talking about interdimensional or different dimensions outside of our own. Enoch himself said he was taken by beings who could change from the form of fire to the form of man and back to the form of fire at will. And as far as these 12-foot giants, no. The Nephilim were well over 50 feet. Think of the Cyclops of Greek mythology. According to the Book of Enoch, the Nephilim may have been somewhere between, depending on how you translate the measurement, somewhere between 50 feet and 150 feet tall. They were giants, not just big humans, giants. They were destroying the planet, literally. So these were, that's why they had a contest years ago. Remember when we started seeing all these huge heads that they were unearthing? Well,
Mhm.
one university had a Photoshop contest to Photoshop huge skulls. And so you couldn't tell whether it was a Photoshop or whether it was really an archaeological find. Interesting. Academia is right with them, like you would suspect anything else. So we have this AI, this artificial intelligence, which is ruling us through everything that we use today. All the computers, our TV screens, our cell phones, they don't have to stick us with they don't have to put an RFID chip in us. We already hold a device. We already hold a device up which turns around and tells them where we are, what we're doing, who we're talking to, our whole entire life right on one little handheld device. I lost my cell phone. That's okay. There's a cloud to keep all the information in. We've accepted this. Our children can no longer think without an app. They live by hitting a screen, reading the information that it produces, and saying, yeah, I'll meet you there in 5 minutes. And so you get a flash mob of hundreds of people on a corner of a city street. Anytime you put a mob together, the IQ always drops to the lowest common denominator, which is usually pretty close to idiot. And so then you have a riot that breaks out that usually turns deadly. Meet me where? Oh, in Ferguson. Yeah. And so we have, for the first time in what? Well, we had Rodney King's incident. But really, Alfred, when's the last time we had race wars? When's the last time there was an obvious race issue in the United States? During the Johnson administration? It's why now? AI, all controlled. I'm a nonviolent person. I would never go to war. I would never purposely shoot somebody unless I was defending my family and had to. And I would hope that there would be some other alternative. And I don't think that would ever happen. But if you put out hatred and you put out revolution and you put out fear and things of that nature, that's what you're going to get back because you're living by it. And so I find that extremely distasteful. Yet, I went to my Facebook page, and on my homepage one day a couple of months ago, I saw police innocently shooting an unarmed man, which wanted to then make me judge, jury, and executioner on the spot. I was being mentally manipulated by AI, and I didn't even realize it. I wanted physical justice and death meted out for these people who had just killed somebody else. Oh, they were all crisis actors? Damn, didn't I get suckered into that? All AI. So how do you get out of that? Where do you go from there? Now, you had asked, earlier, what does it say in the scriptures about this? Very simply. And you wonder, we've got microwave, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got all sorts of different transmitting devices shooting down from whether it's GPS positioning systems or whether it's tracking or radar or whatever it is that's being beamed down to us, or whether it's a HARP signal that's being beamed across, or whether it's CERN's Hadron Collider. It's all electromagnetic fields being pumped through the air, carrying out a binary message, disturbing the natural order of things. And in Ephesians 2:2, it says, interestingly enough, that at one time we walked according to the system of things of this world, according to the ruler of the authority of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. Does it get any more clear? I've got a Wi-Fi connection to this computer right now. It's influencing what I think. I would like to get away from it one of these days. A good electromagnetic pulse will do that now, won't it? So, how do you rule the air, Alfred? You would have to control those devices which transmitted over things like Wi-Fi and microwave, and our cell phones are close to microwave. If you were controlling those wavelengths, you would be essentially ruling the air, would you not? So are we starting to see a scientific connection here to what these hypotheses are? And yet it's all coming down under biblical prophecy at a critical time. So where's it coming from? Where's the artificial intelligence coming from? Off planet. When did our technology take the turn to change on this earth? Historians will link everything back to 1914 and the outbreak of World War I, which we know was controlled by the Rothschild cabal in an effort to gain global supremacy. And they were doing this. If you look back at a world map of 1914, you had the greatest colonization of the world at that time. And it was pretty much all colonized by Europe. The 10 crowned heads of the European Union had pretty much colonized the earth. And so, as Amschelmeyer Rothschild once said, I care not who sits on the throne. Let me rule the currency and I'll rule the country. And so now we get World War I. But what we don't know is what happens off planet. And again, we go back into Revelation, the 12th chapter, and it talks about an interdimensional war. It talks about this Michael and his angels versus the great dragon and its angels. And no longer is a place found for them in the heavens anymore. Down to the earth they are cast. And there's even a warning. Woe for the earth, because the devil has been cast down to you, having great anger. All through history, starting with these Anunnaki gods, they have demanded human child sacrifice. When did the Vril, and anybody who wants to research this, go ahead, but you don't have to. The Vril Society came out of World War I. The Vril Society was a society that committed child sacrifice. Every year, 500,000 children vanish off this planet. And we know that the highest powers on this planet, right up to the Vatican itself, are involved in child trafficking and child sacrifice, in carrying out Anunnaki will. All religion, all government can be tracked back directly to the cradle of civilization, right back to Samaria, right back to the Anunnaki. What does Anunnaki mean? Those from whom heaven came. Heaven, the non-physical dimensions, which string theory says we need in order to even exist. The singularity takes up the first 3 dimensions. After that, we have, well, let's start. We have a total of 10 dimensions. The singularity takes up the first 3. Heaven takes up the next 4, takes up dimensions 4, 5, 6, and 7. The physical dimensions, which need the previous 7 to depend on. Without those other 7, we do not exist. We are in the physical dimensions of 8, 9, and 10. Hence, our spiritual soul plasma is put into our physical bodies by our creator parents through an act of love conducted in alpha, which stimulated a new life for us to enjoy. And now that's all been changed. It's been changed artificially through things like CERN, changing the vibration of the very earth itself, through things like HARP, which we know is radio wave vibrating at about, 2.3, 2.4 hertz per second, which is the same vibration that plate tectonics slip at. Just before you get an earthquake, there's a vibration that HARP imitates that causes the slippage. And so you get a HARP-induced vibration. Scientists in Japan recorded a high energy anomaly in the ionosphere during the Fukushima earthquake, or the earthquake which caused the Fukushima situation there. A couple of days, 4 days after the earthquake, they claimed that they said that the core was compromised, but it was too soon to get the readings on the core. They were reading radioactive sulfur. You get radioactive sulfur when salt water interacts with a nuclear reaction, such as a tsunami bomb or a tsunami torpedo, which 9 months after the fact, the United States and New Zealand said that they've worked on and they actually had created, which made me wonder if they tried it out on Fukushima, and all indications are that they did. So all of these weaponry items are being employed, and yes, I'll say CERN is a weapon, is being employed to change the very vibration of Earth, which then changes our mental state. Because not only is it changing the vibration of Earth, it's also enhancing us by this very thing right here that's staring at us every day that we hold it in our hands and turn it on. It's controlling our life. Alfred, you're real intelligence. I'm real intelligence. Everything between us is synthetic. Everything. Everything between us is binary. It was created by computers, driven by computers, for computers, to communicate with computers, and we get to now hold those computers in our hands. Isn't that nice? We got our little baby computers, carry them around with us. They're controlling our lives, and we can't live our lives without them. Need this latest stock report. The stock market's crashing. I got to get my investments out. Not that I have any. It took all what I owned away a long time ago. But that's where it's led us. So yes, the artificial intelligence is real. Fractal technology says that it's imitating the multiverse itself, and it's making us all its slaves. Those who do not want to be part of the AI enslavement system will be systematically done away with. The ultimate goal of the AI system is the 2045 initiative. Death to all biological humans, and to those who can afford it, you can now have a totally new body, immortality, have exactly what you gave up in the flesh, now all built by computerized nanobots. And indeed, your own mind will be run by artificial intelligence. Where does that leave us? In an inorganic, three-dimensional world run by inorganic intelligence, artificial intelligence. The rise of the machines. Pretty sad state of affairs. But that's the catastrophic timeline. That's where they have us headed to. That's what they are trying to control. And if we let them, they will. The prophecy is broad and spacious is the road to destruction. Now, that might sound like it's coming off the pulpit, but let's take a look at this. What do you like? You like hunting, fishing, you like basketball, baseball, football. Motorsports. I like NASCAR personally. I like to fly fish. I haven't fly fished it in a long time, but boy, I like watching my NASCAR on Saturday and Sunday. Boy, howdy, we can get right down with the best of the rednecks and have a good old NASCAR afternoon. But that's my mind control, and that I allow. But what about the people that aren't aware that they're being controlled? Oh, I got to get kids can't live today without doing this. How do you hold a job unless your job is doing this? I don't know. It's beyond me. But that's where it's at. And so we have the organic being controlled by the inorganic, and we have such a variety of whatever we want to experience, whether we want to destroy our lives with drugs or whether we want to refine our lives with love, doesn't make any difference. The government will pump as much garbage and as much crap and as much artificial intelligence upon us. And you gotta love, you gotta love the drug epidemic. Talk about mind control. Okay, your life is so bad because a computer stole your job. You're out of job. You're out of your job now. You used to assemble little nuts and bolts, and now they got a little machine that does that, and you're no longer needed. You wind up on welfare. You wind up in a deep depression. You start taking drugs. You're hooked on heroin. You're arrested. You're put in jail. You become part of the system. Now they have to rehabilitate you. They give you more drugs. They get you out of jail. You're tied into a system for the rest of your life. And now they give you psychotropic drugs so that you can carry on your life as a normal human being, all because of the artificial intelligence which they stuck you with first. How's that, Alfred? And now they want to make everybody inorganic. Oh, you can move your soul over there. Wait a minute. That's a violation of nature. That's a violation of what we're told. Because the soul goes back to the creator, not into a nanobot machine. So whose bidding are we doing here, Alfred? Why is our goal to create a nanobot-based body, computer-based body, if our souls can't inhabit it? If we can't get what drives us at this level, if we can't take that and put it into that computer, then how are we ever going to make a transformation to live forever? Wait a minute. I got a piece of fruit here. You can be just like God, Alfred. Let me find that piece of fruit. It's growing on a tree somewhere. You can live forever. You can be just like God. We were already gods. Why'd they go screw it up? We were already God's children. Perfect human DNA. Genetically engineered. So we could live life in the third dimension, experience the smell of a rose, experience the taste of a fine wine or a fresh apple or a juicy steak or a pina colada or whatever's your fancy, a cold piece of watermelon on a hot Sunday afternoon, a banana split, whatever. So we could look at beautiful scenery and see beautiful people and smell fantastic aromas and taste wonderful things and touch warm, loving bodies. Hold our children close. Live life in a loving state of alpha. Be able to walk up to any animal and touch it, not have it run away in fear. To be able to walk down the street knowing that everybody there is your friend, your family, your neighbor. Everybody's got your back. Nobody's ever going to stab you in the back because they're all living in the same harmonic state of alpha. If you're an alpha, you can't be in fear. Fear doesn't exist in alpha. Fear exists in beta, right where fight and flight exists. How many people are turning around and say, we got to take our country back. We got to fight for what's right. We got to take what's ours. No, just get out of the way. It'll all resolve itself. That's just how simple it is. Get away from the AI. Learn to meditate, learn to pray, and learn to love. It's just that simple, Alfred. Exposing this insanity that we are being forced to live at and under. And yes, I will call it insanity, because that's what it's meant to do, to drive us all insane. Hence, that's why the scripture says the hand of every man will be against his brother. We'll get to that point of hate for those around us, and we won't even know why. Alfred, I experienced this personally. It was with Hurricane Irene. It was HARP driven, came right over the top of us, knocked out our electricity for 8 days. Sitting there, day after the hurricane. It's a beautiful day. The temperature was perfect. The sun was out. The birds were chirping. And I'm sitting there just all hating the world, really, just hating the world. I'm like, why do I just hate the world? Oh, wait a minute. We just got the hell harped out of us for the past 24 hours. That whole hurricane passed right over the top of us, and I watched the HARP radiation light up the radar waves as it went past us. As soon as I realized that it was HARP that had me all pissed off, I had an instant state change. You ever get so mad at somebody that you just want to shake them so they understand? And then once they do this, like, they had a change of state, and now we want to embrace them. How quick that happens. How fine the line is between love and hate. And so we have to turn around and realize when we are being overtaken by hate, artificial intelligence driving us into that state of beta, wants to get us into gamma, wants to make us crazy, wants to make us fight each other, wants to make us go to war, wants to make us kill. Put it down. Turn to a state of love. Do what you got to do. Carry out your business. Shut it off. Stay in a state of love. It's the only way we can defend against this, Alfred. It's the only way we can defend against it, is to have the knowledge to, when we get to that point where when I saw that video of those policemen executing in cold blood, whether it was our crisis actors or not, I don't know. In retrospect, it may have been. It may have not have been. What's the difference? I had that instant state change. And I thought, this wasn't me. This is not me, but I let them get to me for a moment. I let them get to me to the point where I wanted to commit homicide right on the spot. I wanted to be judge, jury, and executioner. That ain't me. I wasn't sent here as a judge. Like you, I'm an observer. You're more so the judge than I am, sir. You hold that position professionally. I'm just a witness, testifying to what I have seen going on this planet.
So what do you see now? I mean, I found this data to be very sobering.
Oh, yeah. It's frightening.
Because some adjustments, the theory is that it has created an artificial timeline into which humanity is enmeshed now.
Yeah.
And especially those who are entrained into the artificial intelligence, who've let their deeper personalities go, and who have taken that AI as real and internalized it.
Exactly. And you see, we do it without even understanding it. I read, and this is they're applying old methods. I read a book on this. When it first came out in 1974, I'm thinking I was 18 years old at the time. The doctor was a university professor. He wrote 2 books. Media sexploitation is one of them, and I forget what the other one is. It'll come to me in a minute. But these were all methods Now, this is back in 1974. These were methods that the advertising agencies in Wall Street were using in order to promote products that were dangerous to people, i.e. smoking. Remember the smoking can advertised? TV shows were sponsored by big, huge tobacco companies for years. And then it became known, oh, well, cigarettes aren't good for you. So what they started doing was they started doing all sorts of subliminal introductions into their advertising so that you would just, yeah, okay, so it causes cancer. Big deal. I know that. Let's get on and give me a cigarette. And so there was that element of danger that they were seducing people with, still making it look like it was all okay. And so, but not just on that level. It went into every product that is on the market. And so we're constantly seduced. And we're talking 1974. So this is what? 45, 50 years, well, no, 45 years, close to it anyway. And tell me that they haven't honed this trade over this past time. The CIA was doing mind control studies back in the 50s. They were doing studies in the early 60s with LSD, all in an effort to turn around and control different parts of people's minds. DARPA's got the best advanced technology because where does it come from? Off-planet, interdimensional, artificial, intelligent beings controlling planet Earth and the people in which it inhabits, or inhabited on it, getting us to build bodies for them out of nanobots that they may be able to inhabit. Oh boy, now he's gone off the edge. Now, wait a minute. What did Princess Diana say? Princess Diana said that the Queen and Prince Philip, her consort, turned from their lovely selves into reptilian-looking creatures and back to their loving selves and said, if you tell anybody, we shall surely kill you. We have a long documented history of exorcism by the church. We have a long documented history of ghosts and things that go bump in the night. The complete scriptures is 6,000 years of interdimensional alien AI intervention in human affairs. Connect it all together, folks. It ain't that difficult. We're being controlled by the Satanic Rebellion. When they engage CERN and open that gateway to Tartarus, then we are going to have Revelation 9, the 9th chapter, be engaged. You've got the Pope standing before Congress, a place where it should not be, on the 24th of September, after his meeting on the 23rd with the Abomination, and then taking his ride on the wild beast on the 25th as he blesses the New World Order, or the United Nations New World Order agenda, the post-2015 initiative. The post-2015 initiative is actually a greater version of a scaled-up Agenda 21, which I believe is now Agenda 2030, 2035, something like that. I forget that they renumbered it. And that is the precursor for the 2045 initiative. So yes, artificial intelligence has driven our future and has created the timeline right up until biological humans will no longer be needed in 2045. We are on the catastrophic timeline as long as the artificial intelligence stays intelligent.
Now, what is the way out of that?
Realize that we're being mind controlled. I hate to say it, but it comes down to meditation and prayer. Connecting, it's the soul connection back to the singularity. It's understanding that we are creative forces ourselves and taking our power back. They only genetically engineered the body. I love the scripture that says, don't fear those who kill the body. Fear he who can destroy both body and soul. And what does it say in Genesis? I shall ask back the soul from every living creature. So once the biological human is over, once the biological body is dead, whether it's human, animal, anything with blood is the precursor, anything with the plasma in it goes back to source, goes back to the creator, goes back to Yahuwah, goes back to that singularity that we so flippantly call God, the creative force to begin with. And so our life experience goes back there. Whether we stay as sentient souls and individuals, I can't answer that question, Alfred. I've never gotten that far.
Right, right. Now, some of the theory thus far, because we're all kind of trying to inch our way through this, if you look at time, the timelines, December 21st, 2012, among the various researchers and theorists, including myself, including Lillian and others, looms very large because that's the time to use different metaphors. Number one, that the Earth's timeline, the Earth's organic timeline, activated itself and is now active and receptive and carrying soul-based humans, so that it's not the artificial intelligence which has the entire human race entranced and entrained like an AI. That is, they're humans who are down on the Earth's timeline. The whole issue of unity consciousness, we are one versus duality consciousness, I win, you lose, and how does this tie into the end of the Lucifer rebellion, the fact of the Christ landing here 2,000 years ago and kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, no, no AI, the earth is not going to be yours. I mean, I'm just kind of tossing these ideas out. I think that that's what the Christ did. He was like an advanced parachuter into AI territory to reclaim it.
Yeah, you're 100% correct.
Yeah. And so he came in 2,000 years ago. We kind of, these star seeds, let's say that there's so many star seeds on the planet now, and we're incarnating now. So where do things stand now? Where
okay.
now?
Let's tie this together. We try to figure out everything in Earth years. Obviously, we're on spaceship Earth. What choice do we have? We calculate everything here. However, everything in the cosmos is calculated by God days, or what we would call a cosmic day, which equals about 1,000 Earth years. So to understand this better, look at a digital clock flash by and understand that we are just, you need fractal technology to start to understand that we are just fractals stacked upon fractals throughout 10 dimensions deep. So time affects us differently here on Earth than it does any place else within the multiverse. That's the first point I want to make. So what we believe to be the accurate time and the accurate time of change is not necessarily the same thing. That's what we're trying to decipher here, to figure out where we are in the stream of things. Now, how we can combat it. Going back to to answer your question, when we look at this individual, the Christ or Yeshua, the Messiah, this all starts with the first Passover and the full moon cycles on which we are going through, to which we now hit the last of the tetrad blood moons, at this particular time. Interestingly enough, the historical accepted date, now biblical historical accepted date for Jesus' birth is September 29th. More biblical scholars agree on that date than any other time.
Oh, I've
But
never heard that one before.
yeah, it's actually between September 28th and October 4th is where most of your biblical scholars will put it. It's never been December 25th. And the reasoning for that is that we know that he was 33 and a half years old when he died. So go back 6 months, and now you have to do the calculations based on his actual date and approximate birth date and how accurate that was. But it doesn't take you to December as a half a year from the spring equinox, puts you back in the fall equinox. So somewhere end of September, beginning of October is the time that Jesus was physically born. Also, the shepherds were still up on the sides of the mountains with their flocks. They would have never been up at that elevation in December, because December in Israel gets to be pretty nasty weather. In the higher elevations, they have snow, and you're not going to find a shepherd out with his sheep in the snow. So they will have all been brought in, they will have been sheared, and they will have been in their winter pens for that during that time. So it can be calculated approximately the end of September 29th. So we've got all these different things which are happening right at this time. But let's take a look at what happened 2,000 years ago, almost 2,000 years ago. We had the shedding of blood, plasma, upon the physical earth itself, which released the soul, which went where? Well, it actually roamed the earth for almost 40 days up to Pentecost, which was 50 days away. I forget exactly how many days after. He may have been actually close to 40 days. I have to go back and recalculate it. But when Jesus left from the soul level actually left was prior to Pentecost, when that time at Pentecost, which is 50 days after after his death, the 120 faithful followers were filled with Holy Spirit at that time, or the first generation of star seeds were formed. Probably the best way of putting it. But here we had a blood sacrifice made with human DNA, a pouring out of the plasma. Now, where the church says, oh, you're all a bunch of sinners and you're all like sex and all this other stuff. Wait a minute. That was all part of the original plan. Not that we were sinners, but that we were told to reproduce. So, yeah. And that got even increased after in Genesis 3 to where we are sexually driven individuals, but we like it best in alpha. But that sin that they want to saddle us with is not a sin of immorality. It's a sin of incomplete DNA. We no longer have complete DNA. The word that sin is taken from or translated from used to be applied to archers. When they sinned, they did not hit the bullseye. There is no way we could ever hit the bullseye of perfect DNA if we're missing parts. You can't put it together. We don't have all the parts. Of course, it's going to be a sinner. Never going to hit the bullseye. So scrape away all that religious guilt. Number one, the sin is for the genetic makeup. Interestingly enough, you mentioned star seeds. Yes, people are waking up. Why? When we go back to Genesis 3:15, there's two genetic strains, the woman's seed and the serpent seed. Could there be more genetic woman seed of the star seed? You'd have to start to look at how people care for one another, how we care about the planet, how we want nothing to do with war, how we want to help educate and have people understand this information, how we want to create a positive future, not one that's based in nanobot technology, but one that's based in love and creation. You see, that's the star seed that's coming about now. And it's actually has been here for quite some time. just the same as when the war broke out in heaven, if you want to call it that, when the cosmos, when the rebellion of the cosmos, the satanic rebellion hit Earth in 1914, or there sometimes thereabouts, the star seeds were already sent here. And there's been star seeds all along that have been making other little star seeds. And so now we've got a whole generation of new star seeds that are here, all because of the genes of the woman within this. So we've got this whole generation that's waking up to the fact that we are being deceived, that we will not buy into this AI technology, and we spend our lives, we spend our fortunes, we change everything so we can turn around and get people to understand. We write books, we do videos, we try to explain it the best that we can to get away from the artificial intelligence. I'm glad this came out now, because now people can finally link all this stuff up together. And it's easy to shut this off. I can't shut this off right here because it's end of conversation time, and that ain't time to happen yet. But it's making more time for our family in love, and it's mentally becoming aware, mentally choosing what to do, because we all have free will. Even though this says eat more popcorn and drink Coca-Cola, it's still up to us to decide to get up out of our chair, go to the counter, and listen to what this says. We don't have to listen to what this says just because it wants us to do something. If you're going to get up and take up arms and go kill your fellow human, you're on the wrong timeline. See ya. You're going to live your life in fear, have hate because somebody's a different color, have hate because somebody's from a different country, have hate because somebody wants to live in life just like you do. Might be on the wrong timeline. However, we know that we are secure in the positive timeline. Just as this is artificial intelligence, which has come to its pinnacle in ruling the planet, organic intelligence still comes by free will. And we have to freely choose to do these things. We have to freely choose to become hypnotized. We have to freely choose to let ourselves be seduced.
Now, how do we know, and these are questions, for example, that there's not a critical mass of robotics, humans that have come together and that are, they're overwhelming the planet, and we're like the Neanderthals. We're like the leftovers, and it's the robotoids that are gonna survive into the future. How do we know that? I'm asking you.
Let's see. Let's go to the book.
Right.
Let's go to the book. First of all, Genesis 1, it says, and God proceeded to create the man in his image. In God's image, he created him, male and female. He created them. So we are created initially by the singularity, which has created everything else. Hence, we have freedom. We have free will. We can choose what to do. Remember, Eve was seduced. She didn't have the exact information. I mean, we can read, but Adam knew. He was told, you eat that fruit, you're going to die. He made a conscious decision. He chose by his free will. Now, what was my belief is that there may have been a telomere virus in that fruit, that once it was eaten, it went right to our DNA, snipped it in half, and attached telomeres to the ends. We would never know, but
Right, but
could be.
we're right, right. But what I'm saying is now
Now,
had World War One, World War Two, we've had 2012 with the timeline, so that this organic timeline has now landed and opened up. What indications do we have that the living humans are going to awaken and really unite in critical mass to come together around the earth, and that this won't become an artificial intelligence planet, that AI as a parasite won't take over the host of this planet?
two
How do we
things.
know that?
Psalm 91. Gotta love this. Psalm 91.
Uh-huh.
Verse 7. It says, 1,000 will fall at your very side and 10,000 at your right hand. To you it will not come near. Only with your eyes you will look on and see the retribution itself upon the wicked ones, because you said, Yahweh is my refuge. You have made the Most High himself your dwelling. Interesting. It says, no calamity will befall you, and not even a plague will draw near to your tent. He says, for he will give his own angels a command concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Upon their hands they will carry you, that you may not strike your foot against any stone. You ever meet your guardian angel, Alfred?
I don't know, actually.
I did several times, and
Uh-huh.
other people have. I'm sure it was my guardian angel who said, come with me. And then the next thing I know, I'm seeing the birth of my child. It wouldn't be a demonic spirit, would it? See the birth of a newborn birth of a child, the youngest child I would ever have. I saw a blue orb stop a deer from coming through the windshield of my car while I was driving at over 60 miles an hour, when this deer decided to leap out of the wood line and try to jump over my car. I have to say, I called him George. I named him George. My son saw it too. Left a round indentation on the windshield of the car. Interestingly enough, I had a Buddhist woman who was from, she's American, but she lives in Thailand studying Buddhism. She told me that while she was cleaning in the temple one day, she had a vision. And she said it was of me surrounded by 4 angels. And she said the angel in front of me made itself totally transparent to her, so she could see clearly that it was me that they were protecting. And I thought, wow, cool, a Buddhist woman saw this? I love it. So, yeah, guess what? Star seeds are protected. Once they understand their true destination, I mean, we can leave the
Yeah.
planet if
No,
we
no, no,
want.
sure. Now, but
One more thing.
yeah.
One more spot, and this is important. This is the big kahuna here, so to speak. Let's see. This is the people that or the human family that gets onto the positive timeline, who skirts past all this negative nonsense. It says, and this is from Revelation 7:9, and it says that after these things I saw, and look, a great crowd which no man was able to number, out of all the nations and tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, dressed in white robes with palm branches in their hands. This is significant of accepting the Christ 1,000-year rule of peace, or the messianic rule of peace, which, interestingly enough, Arthur C. Clarke understood when he showed David Bowman becoming a star child. So now what I just read was Revelation, the 7th chapter. But prior to that, and since I brought it up, I might as well just go right back there. The 7th chapter starts off with by listing, and people have misapplied this. Arthur C. was a genius. I love Arthur C. Clarke. But in the 7th chapter, verses 4 and 5 is where it starts off talking about the number who were sealed. These are the number of the star children, essentially, not the star seed. It's a different level. It's the level above us, like our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, ancestral, all the way back. They are numbered as 144,000. They are the human transferred via, as Arthur C. described, David Bowman into the Star Child, who oversee the future development of the human family. They take over the job that the Watchers do, or had. The Watchers who went bad and turned around and tried to have their own children here on this planet, they're in Tartarus. Yep, they're going to be released. We're going to see hell open up on Earth. AI has to come down. AI has to be destroyed. Those supporting AI will be done away with. Revelation 9 talks about 1/3 of the population of the planet on the wrong timeline. That's significant. It also talks about this invasion of what can only be described as some sort of alien invasion that comes out of this shaft of the pit of the abyss. Things the size of horses that can fly like locusts and have stinging tails like scorpions, and they persecute the men. Interestingly enough, the men who take the mark of the beast is who they persecute. So it's kind of a twist here. And it says that they sting them, and the pain is so great that they wish that they would die, but they can't die. And this goes on for 5 months. Now, whether it's a literal 5 months or not, I don't know. But this all happens, or is what they want to do by engaging the Hadron Collider and opening up this gateway to open up Tartarus and release this nonsense upon the Earth. Now that all the nasties are going to be released, we are children of the Creator. We have that creative power within us. All we have to do is connect to the singularity and draw on it, and we can control, when it's time, we'll be able to control the most nasty of these things. This isn't like cheating death. This is like being protected and commanding powers of the multiverse. So when it comes down to it, we have very little to be concerned about. We can live in a state of love, because it's that specific state that drives us in alpha, keeps us out of the beta, will save us from the gamma that they're going to try to yank our brains into. And it's just a matter of stopping, saying, whoa, why do I feel this way? This isn't me. Maybe I should meditate. Maybe I should pray. Maybe I should draw attention to love and think of positive things. And boy, it'll change just like that. We'll be able to take us out of that state of mind.
Right now, in our prior explorations, especially when we went up to Revelation chapter 18, chapter 19, looking at this tetralunar eclipse coming up, it looked like we were coming up to some kind of a crescendo this September.
Oh, without a doubt, we are.
Yeah, but however, looking at it through the lens now, and finally, it's an artificial intelligence, and discovering the artificial intelligence, that it's not just people. It's not, Pope Bergoglio and Obama. They're just individuals.
They're players.
They're players. It's plasma. It's just inorganic plasma. It seems to me that we're dealing with, something that's longer term. It's much longer term, and we're not going to have any kind of a an immediate, uh, crescendo, either the immediate second coming or the immediate, Armageddon, that that it just seems to me now that, oh, okay, so now we understand a deeper layer of what's going on now, and we have to step back because it's a much longer term battle. Am I getting things wrong here or what?
No, you have the right concept. You have the right perception.
Mhm.
And yes, if there was no positive timeline, what we are being taught is, or what we're being showed through artificial intelligence, it's designing our timeline for us and taking us to a point of extinction. And in order to get to that level, it's going to take what we're being told now, at least until 2045. However, don't worry about it. That's where they're taking us. Now, think about this as driving a car to a destination. Now, we're traveling down the interstate at 60 miles an hour. We're not going to be crazy speeding here, but 60 miles an hour. Reasonable speed, mile a minute, we're doing good. Even if we take the car out of gear, even if we shut the engine off, is if we don't apply the brakes, or even if we do, if we just take it out of gear and let the car coast, it's going to take some time before it stops. So we can't just say one day, wake up and say, okay, let's just end artificial intelligence and expect this to end peacefully, because it would take time to dismantle, time to rebuild, time to retool everything for a peaceful transition. However, if you're going 60 miles an hour down the highway and somebody drops a concrete wall in front of the car and you hit it at 60, there's going to be a lot of tremendous damage done to the vehicle, and your chances of survival become slim to none. If AI is ended all at once via a Nibiru type situation where we might have some sort of electromagnetic pulse destroying every AI computer on the planet, every computer chip. Talk about a car crash to AI, huh?
Well, don't forget that AI has just begun to inhabit this new generation of gadgets, because, as I understand it, the AI is now. I mean, that's why we had the petroleum age, petroleum being kind of a black goo. That's why the guys behind the petroleum, who are the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bushes, the Illuminati, and that's why the proponents of petroleum were able to assassinate and neutralize all the free energy proponents at the end of the 19th century. That was part of the battle of artificial intelligence taking over the planet. It took many different forms.
Yes.
And so it's not just uh, uh, it's not just a but what you're saying is that you're saying, well, we could look at a Nibiru event as knocking AI out.
Yep, it would.
You think so?
Yeah, just from what, well, I would much rather have a Nibiru event than have a nuclear event. Nibiru, if it exists, has been here and gone many times before.
But
If it wasn't, if it wasn't
yeah,
a, I was
yeah,
gonna say if it
but
wasn't a, go ahead.
isn't the optimal event has nothing to do with any catastrophic or negative consequences. The optimal event is that uh, more and more humans, is that there's a transformation of consciousness of the humans.
Sure.
And the humans all of a sudden say, oh my God, we've been taken over, or we're in danger of being taken over. We're letting go of this inner thing.
Alfred, this video might be the start of that. I mean, think about it.
Well, there's no. I
Because
mean,
this is an
there is
exposure.
there is a whole movement started now,
Yeah.
and so you know, and more people, and uh, so that more and more humans are, number one, exposing the AI within themselves, and you know, within the environment, just exposing it, and then healing themselves, and getting on the organic timeline, and then training themselves back onto source, back onto God, and uh, away from the beast, where you you know where right now, uh, the significance that I see of Jade Helm is that that's the first time historically that AI, Jade Helm being an artificial intelligence, the Jade part, has said, oh, in your face, United States, artificial intelligence is running you, Jade Helm. And that's just the cover for the secret artificial intelligences like the Red Queen that the Dracos have given to the Matrix to run their financial sector, their security sector, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And you see, it's all part. They had to drive technology to get to a certain point. I mean,
Yeah,
if we were still back in the industrial age where steam was the ruler of the planet, you know, all machines ran by steam once upon a time. Before that, they were ran by horses, and before that, they ran by people. Now we've brought everything down to where it runs on minuscule amounts of electricity, almost the same as our bodies. And our computers are getting so advanced, and the technology is getting so advanced that it's now come down to a cellular level. We've not been able to manipulate at the DNA level until the last 50 years. And it's only through the technology that we've been given that has allowed us to do that, but not just with DNA, in nanotechnology too. So now us humans, who should have never been able to have the power to manipulate chemicals to the point of creating little tiny robots to build big bodies, or manipulating the different things within nature, which we've manipulated. We've manipulated everything on this planet through technology, and it's either through computers, or it's through the physical way that we've treated the planet. And to get away from that is we could do it slowly. It's like weaning ourselves off of oil. Now, who wants to give up their car? Who wants to all get on the bus? Who wants to all walk to work? You know, it's like, well, I ain't going to do that. Well, what happens if all of a sudden all the systems collapse and now you have to rebuild the systems? You see, if we can come to a global consciousness, a global awakening, great. The quickest way to do that is to get rid of the beta system. And the beta and the gamma, return the Earth back to a vibrational speed where it likes to be in theta. If the Earth was vibrating at a level of 6 or less, we'd be more inducive for our own brains while we slept to vibrate at 7 or less, and we'd have this global consciousness. But they're all working against it. So we kind of got
right.
to drop a brick wall in the way.
Yeah. So And it seems like the power is becoming more and more AI.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
how do we, who are, you know, the living human beings at the edge of the system, how do we, you know, stop the world? I want to get off. How do we transform this world? It seems to me that we're kind of on the losing edge. How do we transform this world?
I love you, Alfred. You're a great and wonderful person. Fantastic humanitarian. That's how we change this world. By start telling each other that we love each other and we love ourselves first. I mean, we've been told we're useless slaves, we're sinners, we're no good, we're going to burn in hell. Screw y'all. I'm a great, fantastic person. Okay, I'm not totally complete. I don't have totally good DNA. I'm mentally dysfunctional, I suppose, to some sort. Guess what? The scripture says God chose the foolish things of the earth to put the wise to shame.
Oh, I know. But look at what the AI is doing inside the US. I'm outside the US in Canada, and now the AI has one of the two principal parties wanting to wall all Americans in. You're going to build a wall at the Mexican border. Now you're going to build a wall at the Canadian border. And that's to keep all the Americans in. It's not going to be to keep, you know, the rest of the 95 trying to get in. It's to keep the Americans from getting out, to
We
keep
got them
the
all.
Americans from getting out. So how, you see, how is that? But before we used to say, oh, the lamb is going to arrive with the heavenly host and everything's going to be okay. But now we got the AI, right? And now we have X% of the human race is like zoned out, man. They are zoned out.
And where are they? They're
They're
texting.
Trumped out. They're Hillaried out. They're
Yeah.
out. They're footballed out. They're warred out. They
They are zombied out to the
they're
reality
zombied
of the
out. Now,
situation.
how is going, you know, so that the artificial intelligence has those zombies. So is that going to take the whole of the world down? Are we going to like, how are we going to, what's the mechanism? Show me the path out. That's what I said. This artificial intelligence meets the prophecies. Show me the path out.
Well, here we are. This is what we're facing. Right now, we're watching Revelation 17 and 18 coming to fulfillment. Last year, at the 69th General Assembly of the United Nations, we saw the last part of chapter 16 being fulfilled, which is the gathering of the nations together for the third time. This time, last year, the target was caused by ISIS, but the target, the United Nations voted to end extremism on the planet. So extreme anything. ISIS is what was the cause. They don't have to be the only thing. Anything extreme outside of the agendas that they're rolling out, it would be considered to be extreme. So all of religion may one day soon become extreme. With what the Pope has done, or what the Pope is about to do, with on the 23rd with meeting with the Obama, on the 24th meeting with Congress, and on the 25th blessing off the new world, the one world government here, our new world order with the post 2015 development agenda. He is starting Revelation chapter 17 and 18 both.
Right.
Now, they don't run the timeline isn't linear. It's different events that John is seeing, which is recorded in both chapters. So you kind of almost have to dismantle them and reassemble them in the time period. But in chapter 17, it starts off talking about the whore of Babylon, which we can track by its actions to the Vatican. The Vatican, which worships the Holy Mother and the Madonna and Child, just the same as the ancient Sumerians, the Babylonians, worshipped Siriamis and Tammuz. So there's the player, Babylon the Great. And what is it doing? The representative, the Pope, will be riding the wild beast of the nations. World powers, nations are, I should say world powers or nations, yes, are always wild beasts. The eagle, the bear, the lion. Wild beasts of the nations. And when we look at the composite wild beast, it's pretty much all of them. And this is the beast that comes out of the Sea of Turmoil in Revelation 13. Seven-headed, one for each of the seven world powers, 10 horns, one for each of the kingdoms of those seven world powers that carried out different types of governments, right down to the government that we have today. This composite wild beast changes slightly with Babylon the Great, and it's believed because of the color. It's scarlet colored that the whore of Babylon rides. Literally, it is the 10 crowned heads of Europe, which the Vatican is in charge of and controls. All 10 crowned heads of Europe, including the Anglican Church of the British Empire, is still under the control of the Vatican. At least Her Majesty, Dame of Malta, Elizabeth II, is a servant of the Vatican.
Right.
So are the Bush boys. Daddy Bush, George W., and Jeb are all Knights of Malta. As we talked about, Mandela was a Knight of Malta. You can go find a whole list of people that are Knights of Malta. Interesting. Bill Clinton was a Knight of Malta. Ronald Reagan was a Knight of Malta. So just by its very fact that there has been an unbroken succession of Knights of Malta up to Obama, the Catholic Church is pretty much, or the Vatican has controlled what's going on in the White House. Every single president has been a Knight of Malta. And Obama got a letter of recognition from the Knights of Malta, recognition and support. So while he himself is not a Knight of Malta, he is supported by the Knights of Malta. Hey, it's right there. It's public knowledge. All you got to do is go look. It's there for everybody to see. So here we can clearly see, with everything that this Pope has been calling for, and the prophecies, the non-biblical prophecies against the Pope, as this being Petros Romanos, the last Pope. He wants to unify world religion. What is happening now in the stock market is a clear situation of Jesuit Zionist manipulation of the banking system. What does the Pope want to do? End end capitalism. Well, it seems like he's getting his way, according to the stock market in both China. Every stock market in the world for the last week has been down and down dramatically. Oil prices all over the place. Gold has been fairly stable, but even gold and silver has been fluctuating. But it's all falling apart. All the money is getting sucked out of it. All of the inflated value is being sucked out of it. It's all collapsing. It's going into a state of de-inflation, which means things are going to get cheaper, but nobody's going to get paid more money. It's all in a reverse situation. It's in a collapse. Now, what they're predicting is that like all the fluff gets blown out and then it comes back and it starts to rebuild as it always does, and then you go through these different cycles. It's not linear. It's sawtooth, as they describe it. I'm talking about the stock market.
Right.
Well, if the Pope's idea is to end poverty and have all wealth distributed evenly, then we have to face a change of some sort coming up here. But when you look at the prophecies, it's interesting. Right after this is all laid out, where the Pope is riding this wild beast, it talks about an eighth king that springs up out of the other seven kings, out of the other seven world powers, and its only focus is to destroy the harlot, Babylon the Great.
Hmm.
Its only purpose is just to destroy that, to destroy religion. So the very thing which they are creating, the new world order, will in a year or so's time turn against religion. The laws are already in place. I don't know how many times I've said this, Alfred. The United Nations right of freedom of religion, Article 2.1. We have the guarantee of freedom of religion, provided that religion does not become a hazard to public safety.
Right.
You know, kind of like child trafficking, pedophilia, running into your local cafe and blowing yourself up in the name of some god. You know, those are all things that I would consider hazards to public safety.
Yeah.
They're also pretty extreme. So between the guarantee of freedom of religion and the United Nations ending extremism, I'd say that we pretty much are getting ready to see the end of extreme religion, or religion as we know it. Goodbye, pedophilia. Goodbye, terrorists. We're right on the eve. That's where we are right here. And so we will see that carried out. Now, going to chapter 9, somewhere in here, chapter 9 is going to play out, and CERN is going to do its bit, and we're going to have some sort of an alien invasion. That they're already here. We know they're already here. Like you said, it's not.
We are having an alien invasion in terms of the invasion of the alien inorganic artificial intelligence, which is
absolutely
sentient plasma that's a parasite that's trying to invade and take over.
So it's now a matter of ending that. And so how does that end? Well, it says that the King of Kings and Lord of Lords shows up with the armies of the heavens, and we know that he's coming with the immortals too. And it is to judge the nations. Now, you know, we hear about the dragon families doing this, or this group doing that, or these other people working behind the scenes. They may have a clue. They may actually be working to put a limit to what is going on, Alfred. We can't discount that just because we don't see it happening right out in front of everybody, that it isn't happening behind the scenes. You know, they're playing at levels way above our heads, where we have to kind of like jump up and look over the wall to see what's going on. Where you got the movers and the shakers, you got the Rothschilds, these different families that control vast amounts of wealth. You've got the Jesuit power, which controls the wealth of the Vatican, which is probably the most single wealthy organization on the planet. Probably make the Rothschilds look like paupers in reality, but we don't know exactly. We do know that it's being controlled. So whatever off-planet entities, and we've named the Dracos, the Greys, and whatever galactic federation of whatever flavor we have this week showing up, they're here. It's a prison planet. They're all here. What they seem to be waiting for is to open up Tartarus, for CERN to do its thing, for CERN to put us into the mode that's going to make most people lose their minds.
Right. And so the purpose of that, so that it seems as though we're moving toward a situation of maximal AI entrainment.
Yes, and that's what we're seeing.
That is, the AI is moving to just take over all nations.
Yes.
And because look at the nation of the US, it's a corporation. And corporations, we know from the book, The Corporation, by a professor at the University of British Columbia, are psychopathic entities. So, suppose,
devil's seed.
Suppose it seems to me that in Jade Helm, the United States said, I'm an artificial intelligence. And that's what the US has said publicly. And now there's an artificial intelligence coming out in Europe in October. So it seems to me that you've got 7 billion human beings, you've got X number of million entities, nation states, organizations, hospitals, blah, blah, blah. And it's like invasion of the body snatchers. It's like everyone's being taken over who's not completely awake and completely entrained and completely connected to source.
Do you know how many of these there are on the planet, Alfred? Cell phones. Take a guess.
I wouldn't know.
The planet has just over 7 billion people. There are over 6.2 billion cell phones on the planet.
Right.
Everybody's got one. 6.2 billion cell phones, over 6.2 billion cell phones. I can't tell you how many of them are actually smartphones, but that's how many are in service around the planet right now.
Yeah, and now we're being told that those phones that have smart flat array antennas are weapons, are mind control weapons to that anybody that all of the AI and trained people that are the gang stalkers are just using those against in kind of a sub rosa civil war. And you walk around neighborhoods of California and other places, and you're being zapped by gang stalkers with their phones. You're being zapped by the light fixture, the new lamps.
Sure.
They've installed, AI has installed a new smart kind of FEMA camp. The whole nation has become.
Yeah, I was going to say we don't need camps. That's why they just put up the walls. The whole nation.
Yeah.
FEMA
It
camp.
seems to me that the whole of the United States has been taken over by an artificial intelligence because the U.S. is a corporation of the Act of 1871 that established the District of Columbia. That has been taken over by an artificial intelligence. 0.001% of the US population runs the entire country. And that percentage of the population is probably totally AI entrained. People like Bill Gates are robotoids. They are no longer human.
They may also be possessed with other intelligent beings.
Sure. And now they are coming down, suppressing more and more of the population, making their food worse, making their medical care worse, all of that, so that all of the citizens are, feeling suppressed, so that the AI can really attack them more. It seems to me that the U.S. is in grave danger, and no one in any position of leadership is talking about AI.
Well, they're not going to either. I don't think that most of them recognize it, Alfred. I mean, it's something that we're talking about now, and it's been with us for millennia. And it's gotten to the point, though, where we can actually identify it now. We can see what it's doing. And once we identify and see how it works, then we can deconstruct it, and we can learn not to be as affected by it, or when we are affected by it, to stop it, to become consciously aware and say, whoa, I got to back up and reevaluate my situation here.
I guess what I'm saying is that I'm starting to come to the view that we're going into a new dark ages and not a new light ages.
It's going to seem that. I think the transition will probably seem somewhat dark to begin with, but this is, I would say, the human race's darkest hour that we're going into. This has to come to closure here.
Okay, so how,
And
how long is the human race's darkest hour going to last? I guess I've got to say that.
I don't think it's going to last that long, because when we look at what they're trying to brainwash us with now, and what I'm looking at here with what's going on with the world situation and how we are headed into September, I think that this is going to be a major brainwashing in compliance. Remember the 10 days of Mandela, where everybody mourned Nelson Mandela around the world for 10 days, and that's all that CNN pumped for 10 days, all we saw. That was a mind wash, a brainwashing exercise being carried out by the Vatican. Mandela was a Knight of Malta. And we have the guy who's there signing in some language that nobody knows, claiming he's seeing entities flying around the arena. Okay, maybe he was interdimensional entities. I'm not going to argue with it. That's what he reported. The fact of the matter is that was one 10-day psyop held by the Vatican to turn around and bury a man that had died earlier that year. And it turns around at the same time. We have Comet Ison, which is supposed to be the most fantastic comet ever in a civilization's lifetime, just vanishes, disappears, never comes around the back of the sun. It breaks up and goes away right at Hanukkah. And we got the 10 days of Mandela instead of Comet Ison. What's up with that? So there's manipulation to destroy a comet. And anybody that goes back and looks at the footage of Comet Ison when it comes around the backside of the sun, the coma is blowing in the wrong direction. The coma is always supposed to blow away from the sun, perpendicular to the sun. The coma was not perpendicular. It was 90 degrees angled to the sun. What caused it to explode and blow the coma against the sun's solar rays? I have no answer for that. It's something way beyond our level. So we're dealing with something serious here. And then from there, we go into the tetrablood moons, which we said before they even started, a year before they started, Alfred, we said that the world was going to wind up differently than when it started out. And here we are, the very last tetrablood moon, and we've got the New World Order. Welcome here.
This is on the 28th.
Yeah.
So maybe another word for the New World Order is welcome to artificial intelligence entrainment.
Yeah, well, pretty much, or internment might be actually more of a more accurate view.
Internment. So that there will be that percentage of humans, those of us who are aware that there exists an artificial intelligence, which I think will be a very small percentage of people.
I hope not.
And then
It's
the rest
it's
of
a number that no man could number. It's an amount that no man could number. Right? That's what it says in Revelation. So let's hope it opens up. Let's hope.
So you're feeling optimistic about this.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way that we should feel, because the scripture says, when you see these things occurring, stand up, lift yourselves erect. Your deliverance is getting near. And so, great, we're seeing the New World Order come about, and the Pope's blessing it off, riding it, thinks the Vatican's large and in charge. The next thing that happens is the New World Order destroys religion. Fantastic. One step closer to the end. What's next? King of Kings, Lord of Lords shows up and puts all this this whole issue to bed.
Okay. So you're you're saying then that if it were not for that,
we're screwed. Yeah.
For the return of a paradise son of God, a unique deity.
No. Let's not call it a unique deity. Let's call it our brother. Let's call it our cousins are coming to rescue our asses.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to, Alfred.
Okay, but
either that or we can all leave the third dimension and go home.
But it's not. You're saying that it's not only the Alpha Centaurians and the Pleiadians and the Sirians that are going to come in and they're going to say, you know something, we have too much of an investment here with the Homo sapiens and planet Earth, artificial intelligence, Here's Cosmic Mace, you're over.
Yeah. How long? How long how long does a trial last, Alfred? Until the closing argument, right? Once the closing arguments are made.
Well, no, there's the verdict, and then there's the sentencing.
Okay, but yeah, but pretty much once those closing arguments are made, that's it. We're not accepting any more evidence. Evidence time is over. So now you and I have identified that the evidence of this matrix is producing an outcome which will be detrimental to the human race. It will end the human biological race forever. Should it be allowed to carry on its artificial intelligence? Do we need any more evidence?
No, I mean, in
Okay.
front of us, no, but we've got the rest of the 7 billion human beings. We've got
They're not
the
in court.
rest. What?
They're not in court. We are.
Oh, I guess you lost me there.
They're outside walking around.
I
Okay.
see.
We're looking at this from the cosmic level, not from an Earth level. Let's get off planet. Let's go cosmic look. So you're telling me from a cosmic level that here's the case I'm looking at. I've got somebody who's made a legitimate blood plasma soul claim to the future of the human race. And then I've got those who genetically probably engineered the human race or the human genome to get it to the point to where we could turn around and put the soul into the genome to create the complete three-dimensional human.
Yeah.
So now I've got two different entities before me. I got one guy named Jesus who turned around and said, well, look, I died. I laid claim to this, and I have great plans for this planet. And here's the other guy that says, well, I've been working on this since I deceived that bitch Eve back in Eden, and it belongs to me because they sold their soul to the devil. Jesus never argued who owned the planet. He just made claim to it. So you see, there's the cosmic claim that's gone on. And so here's the thing. You don't want to be part of the 2045 initiative. I don't want to be part of the 2045 initiative. No, so we're opting out.
Right.
We're opting out. We can do that. We don't have to be, we have free will. We're not stuck with that. So you and I put our trust in an off-planet being. Now, remember, this isn't just, oh, the reptilians went bad. This is all species. There was a rebellion among all species. So I don't care if you want to say they come from the Palladians, they come from Orion, or they come from the spatial four dimensions we call heaven. They ain't from Earth. They're not from Earth. Humans are from Earth. So let's just say there's a group of all of them, a slice among all of them who are involved in our development, who are involved in the human genome creation, that think that they have a right to rule our soul, to rule us at the soul level. And we have free will, so they have nothing. However, we've got these two entities. You got the covering cherub of Eden, and you've got this guy named Yeshua who laid a blood claim saying, I'm paying the price back. The planet is now mine. Doesn't mean the covering cherub of Eden is going to let go of the planet. He's got his plans to get rid of all the biological humans and replace them with nanobots. He's good with it. And then they can inhabit those nanobot bodies, program them any way they want. And the future of the third dimension isn't biological.
Yeah.
It's
And
computer. It's artificial intelligence.
So how's the outcome of that going to be determined?
And the technology.
Sorry?
And the technology. You see, it's an ending of the technology that causes it.
I see.
So
what you're saying is that
if I do this, it's worthless.
you mean what you're saying is that the digital technology is flawed.
Yes. All the technology is flawed. If it wasn't flawed, we would be in a loving society that wasn't bent on destroying classes, not just people, not just races, but classes of people, which go across all races, religions, and locations.
And these are the nanobots and the nanites, which the
Nanites, that's right.
reptilians say is the technology that they brought 26,000 years ago. And the
Yeah,
betting is now that the reptilians, the Dracos, are now AI and trained. They become robotoids, and
or they're in the process of.
yeah, yeah, and so they're the ones that brought the technology. They're the ones when the U.S. and Nazi Germany signed the treaties in the 1930s with the Orion Greys and with the Dracos that we got sucked into. So how are we going to get ourselves out of that one? And
Alfred, it's a lot easier. I mean, it's not that complicated. It all comes down to we have free will.
oh, I know how I'm going to do it, and I
As
know
a
how
society,
you're going to do it, and I know how my friends are going to do it, and we're going to be fine.
yeah,
But what about the planet and the human race?
the
See,
human race is going to go
we're
into it.
just three people, and my friends and everybody is a maximum of 1,000 people. What about the other 6 billion, you know, plus that are trapped in there and don't even know that there's an artificial intelligence and don't even know, don't know anything.
In this case, I understand it. Ignorance is not bliss.
Yeah,
However, let's take a look at a few things. And I think that a lot of people are going to wind up waking up over the next year.
you do.
Yeah, there's a jubilee. We have, besides all this, that they can only try to brainwash us. Nobody's going to walk out and hold a gun to our head and say, sign here yet. Okay? They're only going to brainwash us to comply because it works so well. Either comply or distract. So if things turn bad and you have to rely on the government, come on. They've already done this. They're turning the United States into a socialist country already. So they're going to have to give everybody a raise. I don't know what to tell if they put if they can take everybody on the planet and make it a socialistic planet and give everybody $100,000 a year, we could all live like kings. Well, almost, but they won't do that. Instead, they've driven it into the opposite end. So that's the paradigm which has to change. People are going to become aware of them driving us more toward this destructive timeline, and they're going to rebel. It's just that simple. It's like squeezing a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more sand you lose. And
Okay,
so
so
the more we talk,
this is
the
going
more
to be
I'm awake.
a human revolution on the
Yeah, it's
planet
going to have to be.
against AI.
Yeah.
That is what's going to be now.
And understand, I shouldn't say revolution. Bad choice of words. An awakening.
An awakening.
An awakening, yes.
Well, they better start wakening up because,
it's tough, yes.
I mean, the more I look at, I mean, put it this way, most of the world where there are elections, it's a 30-day campaign. In the US, it's a circus that goes on for 18 months. It seems like it's bread and circuses. And
Oh
that's
my
more
goodness.
brainwashing.
Yes.
And
It's like I've got to look at Hillary for 18 months.
right? It's just like you're putting people to sleep even further.
At least I know that they're going to drop the checkered flag sooner or later in NASCAR. It just ain't going to last forever and ever. The season comes to an end in baseball, basketball, all the other ones. Politics is just one game that just keeps on going and going and going. It never ends, and we never understand the outcome, and we have no say. It's theater.
Religion, politics, and government are all Anunnaki, are all AI.
Yeah, and so it's never ending. It's just a different flavor. There's over 38,000 different sects to Christianity. over 38,000 different churches, all claiming to be Christian. Now, which one would Jesus go to? He wouldn't go to any of them.
Right. Now, this is the thing. We've gone 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're pretty much we've uncovered this, baby.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, see, I think that we're in a different ball game now. And
No,
I
it's not.
think that this ball game is going to be much more demanding on the individual human being. It's going to say, "Oh, you want to survive? You better wake up." It's not going to take. It's not going to take people along for a free ride.
No, it's not. We have to turn around and get away from the artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't name it AI in Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon, but it's all laid out there. The game hasn't changed. It's the same game. What's changed is we have become more aware of the danger. We've been able to identify the player as artificial intelligence because nobody can get away from this, and we can track it all through CERN, who's trying to open up the gates of Hades and invented the internet and controlling everything right down to what we know to have U.S. patents to exist to control the plasma that we're looking at and the plasma in our own bodies.
Okay, so what's going to stop that?
Shut off the electricity, go for a walk in the park.
Okay.
It's just that simple.
It's going to be all of us going for a walk in the park, letting go of this guy.
Yeah.
Letting go of it.
Yeah, how do you squeeze and hold on to love? How do you force love? We can't force love. You can't force somebody to love you. We can do things that might induce someone to love us, but we can't force anybody to love us. Nor can anybody force us to love them. That has to be something that comes from the inside. You know, to love a God because he'll burn you in hell if you don't love him is not a good reason to love a God. To love yourself because it's a good idea to love yourself isn't necessarily narcissistic, provided you're not doing it at the cost of others or at other people's expenses. Because if we don't love ourselves, we're never going to turn around and put this down. We're never going to turn around and walk outside. We're never going to turn around and tell anybody, I love you. We're never going to make that shift. Instead, we're going to be watching videos of crisis actors killing each other in what appears to be cold blood, wanting revenge, thinking it's real when we're all being played out by CNN and the other 5 media moguls that are controlling all of our thoughts and the things that go on. So it's just a matter of becoming aware. It's a complicated system, but the answer's simple.
Okay, so let's back up now. We're at the end of the program. What have we learned?
Shut your computer off. Seriously, where we are is we're coming up on this time of change. We've been talking about a new world order for 15 years, just about that long. Well, here it is, folks. Congratulations. Everything that you wished, everything that you warned us about is now here.
And would you say that the New World Order turns out to be AI?
It would have to be. What else would it be?
Yeah. So it's been really deceptive.
Extremely.
Extremely.
And
we've been studying a lot of other stuff. And I can tell you, there was no AI chapters, no AI books, no AI articles, nothing.
No, and you know, it's funny.
Brand new.
It's funny. I remember reading that scripture and hearing it read several times. One that I read about controlling the air, being the ruler of the air. Mm-hmm. And I'd often wondered if it meant something like tornadoes or, you know, some kind of typhoon type storm. But no. Wi-Fi, microwave, any kind of transmission actually controlling that radio frequency, or those radio frequencies which need the air to travel in and are part of the air itself. And so the answer is simple. It comes down to caring for each other, caring for the planet, and loving and recognizing. I think, Alfred, this is the biggest thing. Recognize the deception. Recognize when all of a sudden we wanted to go take a gun, when we didn't want to cause somebody harm, when we want to go down and protest and yell and scream and curse and kick our heels. Well, good. I'm glad you feel that way, but stop, because they're just sucking you in.
Right.
When we get to that point, stop, take a step back, realize you don't need to be angry, because we do our critical thinking in alpha. We do our planning in alpha. We have pleasure in alpha. We make love in alpha. We dream starting in alpha and theta and delta. The earth should be beating in delta and theta, not up in gamma and beta, at least low alpha, so we can be in harmony with the very planet. So all of these critical masses, which we're being bombarded with from so many different areas, whether it's the smart meter on the outside of our house or our own cell phone, we just have to get away from it. An Uburu event wouldn't be that bad. Something, an electronic pulse to knock the system out, wouldn't be that bad. But it's not coming yet. We're going to have, hopefully, a year of Jubilee, a year of some sort of peace and a semblance to give the people an understanding that it's now or never. People will be able to see the Pope blessing the New World Order. And if they don't realize that this is what they've been looking for the last 10, 15 years, there's nothing we can do to help them, Alfred.
When you say that this is what they've been looking for, what do you mean by that?
People have been talking about the New World Order for 10 years. Everybody's been jumping up. Stop the New World Order. Stop the new. Well, it's here. It's here.
I see.
Now it's a matter of surviving Armageddon, not being tied into the New World Order. Armageddon is the end of the New World Order.
I see.
It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of humanity.
Right.
It's the end of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
You see, once artificial intelligence is over, then we'll have to go back to using real organic intelligence again, won't we?
Thank God. Well, good. How can people get in touch with you and follow your work?
Alfred, the best way to write me, peterkling.com. If you do and request a copy of Letters to Earth, I will send you a free PDF copy. I also ask, and we're still having a family crisis here. My son, my grandchildren, and their clan are facing homelessness here because of just the situation that we're in. So I ask everyone, please, if you can't make a donation, share the link. That's the big thing, because if you share it, other people will see it. GoFundMe.com. Just type in that, and it's / B as in boy 32 A as in apple A as in apple, U as in under, 5 T as in Thomas, 5 K as in Kling. I'll read that once more. www.gofundme.com / B as in boy 32 A as in apple, U as in under, 5 T as in Thomas, 5 K as in Kling. They're being hit really hard with artificial intelligence here, folks. Really hard.
We'll put that link in the article accompanying this panel. So, well, thank you very much. The next time that we meet will be after the tetralunar eclipse.
Yeah.
Of September 28th, 2015. Today is September 1st, 2015. We've certainly given it a big enough buildup. And Let's see.
Alfred, as I recall, June 3rd of 2013, almost a year before the first tetrad lunar eclipse, we predicted this was going to happen. We predicted that at the end, this world was going to be a very different place in which to live. And so here we are.
Well, here we are. I'm not quite sure how I would characterize this new world, but it is different, and it demands 100% of your energy.
Yeah. Take back. We need the computers. We do. And right now, we need the computers. But let's not live our life on them.
Yeah.
Let's use them as tools. If you were a carpenter, you wouldn't pick up your circular saw and run it all day long every place you walked. You're going to cut the piece of wood, you're going to set it down, then you're going to cut the piece of wood and go do something with it, go build with it. And that's kind of what we have to do. So use the resource, don't get tied into it, and do things more with your family. Spend time away from this stuff. Prepare. We don't know how good it might be or how bad it'll get. My motto is pray for the best, prepare for the worst, and live our life in love. Connect to source, connecting at the soul level. Here's the greatest thing, Alfred. If we have an Uburu that goes by and it knocks out all of the electromagnetic frequency, all of the AI that is running Earth will automatically drop right into the old Schumann resonance.
Right.
And then our own brains will start to engage each other in our sleep. And we'll start having that unity consciousness again.
Yeah.
Earth will leave the beta. It will return to alpha, theta, and delta. We just have to learn how to farm and how to survive and how to get through things like that, how to be caretakers for each other, caretakers for the earth. And it all starts with loving ourselves, loving the Creator, loving our family, and then embracing our family worldwide and throughout the cosmos.
Well, thank you.
We're not alone.
Thank you for bringing us home to that positive note.
We do have a fantastic future.
Oh, yeah.
Arthur C. Clarke was brilliant. I wish I could have interviewed the man. But just the fact in what he wrote in his 2001, 2010 series, and then the concept that he had with David Bowman becoming the Star Child, which is indeed the Immortals, they have our future all planned. The human family is going to expand throughout the third dimension. There are going to become more and more human soul entities, and we are going to enjoy life anew in a perfect, non-sinful, complete human DNA. Will experience the divine personally.
From your lips to God's ears.
From God's lips to our ears. Love and blessings, Alfred. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter, thank you very much.